in your pocket. So now that we're posting videos on YouTube as well, what I've realized is that the preparation for me is taking a lot longer. And as I'm getting through more and more subjects, then the research does take longer because it's not stuff that I just inherently know. As such, probably going to go to about every other week, but included in this is what I'm going to do is what we're going to refer to as the bottom line and kind of go back over old podcast topic and ideas, and when possible, synthesize those down for you into quick, palatable snippets that everyone can take in easily and quickly. So I'm going to go back to finance number one. And if you need financial basics, that's sitting in the basics tab of just understanding money and where it all came from and all of that. But financial basics number one is 14 in life to go. And that could also be time for a reset, but time to learn about money, time to take finance somewhat seriously and understand that it's might be important in your life. For most people, especially 14-year-olds, the only thing you know about money is how to spend it. And you're going to need to know a little more about that in your life, or else everyone's just going to take all your money. And everyone has lots of incentives to take your money. Everyone is trying to take your money every day. They're trying to get you addicted to products. They're trying to sell you on stuff you don't need. They're trying to sell you on upgrades that don't matter. They're trying to sell you things that don't even exist. Anything that they can sell you, anything you want to buy, they're out there for you. But the reason I started this podcast is because I believe at my core that for all of us as human beings, we won't find happiness unless we're helping other humans. That's kind of the reason we're here, but that's my philosophy. And we all have to figure out how to do that in different ways. For me, giving out food in a soup kitchen, picking up trash on the side of the highway, none of that worked for me. Volunteering at camps, a little bit, but helping people with finance, because it's something that I know people struggle with so much, I believe that that's my calling. So I've started this podcast to help everybody who comes from the saying of no one ever sat me down and talked to me about this. First off, I want to tell you, you're not alone. 2 out of 3 adults in America cannot pass a basic financial literacy test. Most families don't have anything in savings. A lot of families are living paycheck to paycheck. Some of that's based off of circumstance because literally your family doesn't make enough money. For a lot of us, that's because we don't understand money. So I'm here to help you. Our system in the United States is called capitalism. Capitalism isn't understood by hardly anyone. So how are we supposed to have a better system? Now, some people are going to say that capitalism isn't the best system. Well, in theory, you're not wrong. But in practical application, it's the best one we've come up with yet. And the reason for that is socialism never ends up working. It always ends up with somebody in power who, of course, never wants to get out of power. If you need an example of that, look at Turkey right now. Their president's not going anywhere. And once they're in power, then they want to stay in power for everybody. If you need a nice example of that, Russia or China, where by their laws, they're supposed to end up with a new president every so often. But somehow, Vladimir Putin always seems to be in charge. And President Xi, he just changed the rules himself so that he can stay for life. And that's what ends up happening. So we live in one of the most magnificent times in the world in America, where we have agency, the freedom to choose, and the freedom to speak out. If I don't like what our government or president says, I can talk about it to you, and I don't get arrested. Amazing. And it really is. It truly is. And we all need to be grateful for that. But that doesn't mean that the system's set up for all of us. Because the Constitution says of the people, by the people, and for the people does not mean that it's ever actually meant that. Remember, that same Constitution effectively allowed slavery for centuries. So we can't pretend that our society is set up the way that it should be. And one of the ways that it's not fair is that we don't have an education in capitalism. We don't teach people about money, and when we do, we don't teach it to them in time and manner in which they're going to need it. There's no sense in talking to a high school kid about buying a house and the importance of understanding maintenance costs, because they're not going to do it for a long time. Whatever you teach them, they're going to forget about. What we should be talking to high school students about is, oh, hey, what's your budget for your household actually look like? Do you have a clue what it's going to be like when you have to move out on your own? Have you sat down and talked to your parents about all the bills that they pay for you? Maybe you should. You might be a little bit more grateful for all of their cost and burden that they're giving up. All of the things they could do with that money in their own life if they hadn't had you. Maybe say thank you. I believe in capitalism and the free markets, and here's why. And don't confuse that with what's going on today, because the system of capitalism and then its deployment are two very different things. If you want an analogy to that, I could say it's very easy, the analogy to religion. The idea that we're not in charge and we did not create ourselves in this space is absolutely 100% true. We all know that. We all have these questions. But the way that it's been organized into current religion, the problem with all of those religion things, all of the way that it's set up now, the problem with them is people. And people get into positions of power, and power corrupts absolutely. And the same is true in our capitalism society right now. Once a company gets a little piece, they want a bigger piece. And unfortunately, they're allowed to get some pretty big pieces right now. But that doesn't mean that the whole system itself is wrong. It doesn't mean that free markets are wrong. Free markets are why America is the greatest country in the world. Because what free markets equal is incentive. And you individually are a capitalist and you don't even know it. And so is everybody that you know. And here's how I'm going to explain it to you that's very simple. You do it with your time. So if you're a true socialist, then you believe that everybody should have, for the amount of time that you say, let's say this is my time for society, my time for dealing with other people, then what you would say is that my time I'm going to give up equally to anyone and everyone who wants any part of it, because that would be fair. But that's not what we do with our time. With our time, we seek out other people who we participate with. I want to talk to you because you have something to say that I think is important or that I think I can get something out of. Our relationship is mutually beneficial to the extent that we become friends. But if it's not beneficial, if I don't like talking to you, if you've got a snarky attitude or I just don't really appreciate our conversation, I guess is the nice way to say it, then I'm going to spend less time with you. And a free market says that I can spend time with whoever I want. So if I care about studying, then I'm going to spend more time with people who read books and are studying. If I care about playing basketball and getting better at basketball, then I have the agency and the ability to go spend more time with people who are going to make me a better basketball player. I'm not forced or coerced into being required to spend time doing things that I don't want to, and nor is anyone else. That is a free market. And we all like that because that means we get to pursue what we want to do. Now, for a lot of kids, you don't have full agency. And nor should you. Your brain's still developing. Listen to your parents. You're going to wake up one day when you're 24, 25, and you're going to go, the same thing that I did. In fact, I remember the conversation with my dad. And I called my dad up and I said, why is it that you had to be right about everything? It's so true. It was so true. But we're young. We have to have the experiences ourselves. Part of being young and being rebellious is a very good thing because that's the part where Humans decide, hey, maybe what was working before isn't working anymore and we need to change it. And that is perpetuation of the species. But that is also currently part of our agency. So capitalism is not bad. Capitalism and free market is good. Now, monopolies are bad. We got lots of those these days, and they're letting them create more and more of them. Makes no sense. Actually prevents jobs. It prevents growth. It prevents innovation. But having a free market increases innovation, and that's important. And that's what I want everyone to know. Now, back to why we're doing this podcast. 2 out of 3 adults can't pass a literacy test, and a lot of people tell me no one ever sat me down and told me any of this stuff. No one ever taught me, and no one ever brought it to me in a way that made sense to me. And I don't know where the resources are that I can go trust. So, this podcast, this is my giving back to society for all of my friends, all of my family, and the general public at large. I want you to have access to information about the financial transactions that you'll conduct. And let me give you a very easy example of why this stuff's important. You and me, we became friends. And we're going to go down to Five Guys and get ourselves some delicious burgers and some of those fries that are cooked in that good peanut oil. I like that stuff so much better than this vegetable oil nonsense. So we both go into Five Guys and we order the exact same thing. I'll take a double cheeseburger, all the way, minus the mayo, and a small fry. You order the exact same thing. I go to pay for mine, and the lady tells me it's going to be $10. Done. You go to pay for yours, and the lady says, that's going to be $15. And you look at me, and you look back at her, and you're looking all around, going, this doesn't make any sense to me. How the hell are you charging me $15 when you just charged him $10? And what if she looked right back at you and she says, because you got bad credit. Because you didn't do what you said you were going to do. Well, that analogy isn't perfect for costing you 50% more for the burger. It is true if we're going to buy money, if we're going to buy financial services, if we're both going to buy the exact same car that costs the exact same amount, and I've got good credit and you've got bad credit. The amount that I'm going to pay in interest to finance that loan versus the amount that you're going to pay 50% more. So if you don't like tax of 50% more, and in fact, if you want to learn the game to start paying less, then this is for you. No one likes to talk about money because everyone feels like they should know more about money. I learned this as a CPA. And unbeknownst to most people, but if you ask them about it, if you ask business owners and people who have a complicated enough financial life that they actually have to pay somebody to file their taxes, which I also find morally reprehensible. It seems like a normal citizen should be able to file their own taxes. But such as it is, if you have a CPA, almost no one will leave their CPA. It is very, very hard to convince somebody to switch to me as your CPA if I was still practicing, which I'm not. And for the record, I have an inactive license. I have to say that because it's required by law. I can't put myself out there as though I'm practicing when I'm not. And I'm not. And you can't hire me as your CPA because I tell you no. I don't do it. I don't stay up on all the rules right now. So the answer is no. But if you were to want to hire me, if I'm trying to solicit you, nobody leaves. And the number one reason people don't leave is because they don't like talking about their finances. People don't like talking about money. And that prevents a lot of people from taking advantage of a lot of opportunities. There's a new community out there called the FI community, the financial independence community. And I got a lot of good stuff for them that's coming down the pipeline. You want to be part of that community. That community is you participating in capitalism. Participating in capitalism means that you have capital. Let's just start with that, a very simple concept. You have money. And instead of just spending that money, you want that money to make you money. If you want to participate in this system, you need to understand the rules of the game. You need to understand how they're going to try and get you, how they're going to try and take more and more of yours so that you don't have it. And they do. And they do it all the time. We do it with convenience. We do it with addiction. We just do it with plain ignorance. Whatever it is to get more of your money out of you and keep you broke and destitute, there's people trying. There's very few people out there really trying to help you. But I promise you, I'll be one of those people. Anything that I bring to you will be for the benefit of all. I'm not trying to get you to buy anything from me. I'm not trying to get you to pay for anything. I will do specific courses on things that are very, very valuable. Most of that information you can go find on your own. I'll put it together in a way that will save you a lot of time and money, so it'll be worth it. But other than that, I'm not selling you this. This is how I'm giving back. This is my community service, to help everybody out. And I know everybody needs it because everyone keeps telling me no one ever sat me down and told me this stuff. The other thing is no one's explaining it to people in the timeline of which they need it. So if I go do an episode on buying a house and you're 14 or 15 years old, you don't need to listen to that right now. But know that it's there. And when you are ready to buy a house, when you are ready to learn about leverage, it's there for you. So we'll start at the beginning. We'll work our way through. And I'll go back and do some of these for YouTube. If you need the whole thing, if you want the whole thing, the audio's still there. Go listen to the podcast. You get most of it. More detailed examples, more explanation of topics, more definitions of terms that you need to know. But the bottom line is, you have someone you can trust now. We're in this together. You're going to be on the hustle for the rest of your life, and people are going to be trying to hustle money out of you. The worst part is when you're young and don't know anything, they're going to come after you hard and try and get you addicted. And then when you're old, if anyone finds out you have any money, then they really come for you. And hopefully one day there'll be some laws around that, and there'll be some more protections. But there are things you can do to protect yourself, and we'll talk about those along the way as well. So from everything that you need, from opening a bank account to simplifying your financial life, to understanding transactions that you're going to go through, to understanding your credit, buying a car, all the financial transactions in life that you're going to have to deal with, getting a side hustle, why you need a side hustle, if you want to be an entrepreneur and grow that into a business, all the pieces that you're going to need, we're going to address all those in practical, rational manners, and we're open to discussion. I don't feel like there's a monopoly on knowing everything, and I don't know everything. But this is one thing that I've got a lot of experience with, and I'll tell you why I have that experience. I didn't learn all this under the auspice of that I was going to share with everybody and be the Good Samaritan. I learned all these rules for myself. So from selfish reasons of origin comes, you got to share with the world. And I've been lucky in my life. And I believe that to those who have been given, much is required. And this is me fulfilling that requirement. So here's the bottom line for episode 1. Again, the whole episode is up. Some of the bottom lines will be quicker, some will be shorter. We'll try and mix it up so the YouTube crowd that has to turn it off after 7 minutes can get plenty out of it. And hopefully all of you come back when you need some information and you need some help, and we're here for you. Please spread the word. Thanks for listening, where we try and keep a few more dollars in your pocket. We'll catch you next time.